that you came out this evening to hear me, so anyone who doesn't hear me, please let me know, because I can beller. So let me get my myself together here. Oops. Yeah, I'm going to tuck this in my belt if keep my pants from falling down. Yeah.
That's just a spare.
Right there. Huh. If I ever get this hooked up, we'll get going here.
Got a big enough pocket.
Oh, I see. There's another side to it. Okay, thank you. Thanks for your patience. Winston Churchill said that a speech should be like a woman's skirt, long enough to cover the subject and short enough to keep your interest. So we'll try to work on that principle. I'm going to enjoy talking to you tonight. First chance I've ever had to address fully clothed people. We are given life. Life is a gift. And like any gift, life should be enjoyed. I am not a gloomer and a doomer. I live my life to have fun, and I hope that someone else will get that same motive, because life should be enjoyed, not endured, not at all. So I hope we can look forward to some fun this evening. Certainly as we go through life, oh, hello, dear.
Hello.
This is my niece. Hi, Jane. This is my daughter, Cameron's daughter. Nice to see you. Thank you. As we go through life, we get lots of negatives thrust upon us and at us. We have to resolve them in one way or another, but do the best you can and then enjoy life. Please enjoy yourself. Tonight I have time restraints, and I know that I have a lot more to say than I'll have time to say it. I'm reminded of the old-timer here in Lakefield. Like many people in his era and his age, he never learned how to tell the time. But at Christmas time, he got a beautiful $1.50 Westclock's pocket watch. Well, what was he going to do with it? Well, for the next 6 months, he walked around flashing the watch and saying, "You'd never think it was that time, would you?" So you got to make the best of what we're given. Gail and I have been married 59 years. One of the few smart moves that I made. Every day we have fun. We always laugh with and at each other, and we enjoy acting up and making fun for ourselves and occasionally for our friends. Life is to be enjoyed. I think I heard that somewhere else. We have 2 children, Kathy and Mike. Kathy's sitting here with a lot of my family and supporters, and her husband, Lynn, and Mike, he couldn't make it tonight. Somebody had to make some money. Then I have 4 grandchildren here. I have, 3 grandchildren here. 2 grandchildren. Soon there won't be anybody. I have, hi, Stace. Yeah. I have Jana and Claire, who are Kathy's children, and I have Stacy, who's Mike's son, and we have our great-grandson, Ben, one of the finest looking babies you'll ever cast your eyes on. The Wasson came to Dummer in May of 1831 from Belcoo, County Fermanagh, Ireland. The Irish are wonderful people. Throughout all their difficulties, their poverty, their persecution, they were able to retain their sense of humor. They enjoy life. It is pleasing to note that our present society now is adapting some of the Irish customs. That is, we have a celebration of life, somewhat similar to the Irish wakes. Quite often, more and more often, that is happening for us to see. I'd like to tell you a little story. There's this Irish town, not much bigger than Lakefield, and two identical twin sisters lived there. They got up in years, one of them died. Now, as you know, the Irish really know how to put on a wake, and Matty McNamara, he attended the wake with great apprehension, looking forward to all the goodies. He imbibed freely, in every sense of the word, in the poteen. After a while, he thought he'd better go up and give his condolences to the surviving sister. And he said, "I feel so sorry for ye troubles." He said, "And I have a question to ask of ye." "Ask away, Matty," said the sister. He said, "Well, perhaps ye could tell me, was it ye or your sister that died?" Well, they looked alike. We moved to Lakefield in 1941, after being in the Warsaw area for 110 years. No, I wasn't born here, but I got here as quick as I could. I was 6 years old when we moved. Dad and Mother wanted us children to have a high school education. And believe it or not, the going wage for a laborer in those days, my dad worked at Ray Bestis in Peterborough, was about $28 a week. They wanted $5 a week to board. My brother Cameron boarded in Lakefield at Mrs. Preston's, who had over the other side of the bridge. And
My grandmother.
your grandmother,
Yes.
good for her. She fed Cam well, he got to be a real big boy. Yeah. Then Royden came of age. That was going to be $10 a week. And then Dean was coming on stream. Well, $15 a week when you made 20 and had to pay your way in from Warsaw to Peterborough for travel, we moved to Lakefield. Dad had been trained as a cheesemaker. And cheesemaker in those days was a great trade. It paid better than a school teacher, and also provided a house. The house was never a mansion, but it did somewhat protect us from the weather. Life is quite trying when you live in an older house with 7 children and 2 of a family. So there was no electricity, no running water, no inside plumbing, just a wood stove for heating and for cooking. I always wondered what enjoyment Dad and Mother ever got out of life in a house like that. I asked my 6 brothers and sisters, and they didn't know either. Things evolve. Things make changes. Better roads came along. Trucks came along. Refrigerated trucks came along. That caused consolidation of cheese factories. It caused decline in the number of cheese factories needed. It caused a decline in the number of cheese makers needed. So what was a very good, lucrative trade became not so. My mother was a Dunford. Her father, Albert, was one of 8 children. My grandmother's maiden name was Elizabeth of Janie Crow, one of 14 children. We share bloodlines with the Dunfords, the Crows, the Darlings, the Matthews, and the Littles. Add to that the many intermarriage with different families, and I'm related to everyone in Dummer. My grandfather, William Wasson, was born in 1843. Get that. And I knew him. I was only a child, but I have memories of him passing out raisins in a bag. He lived till he was 96. And when I was 4 years old, he treated us all to raisins from a brown paper bag. Imagine, I knew someone who was born in 1843. That's only 175 years ago. I am one of 7 children. Cameron Royden, who passed away in 2017, Dean, Don, who's known as Red, Elaine, Neil, and Cheryl. Got you in there this time, Cheryl. Yeah. One time I gave an interview and I didn't include her in it. Oh, boy, that was tough. Pretty tense for a while. Yeah. Despite our large family, we never knew hunger. Perhaps it was like a friend of mine who was one of 14. He told me, as far as he knew, they always had plenty. He said, because whenever I asked for seconds, my dad always said, no, you've had plenty. We really took to Lakefield, and Lakefield took to us. I went from kindergarten to complete my schooling in grade 13 in our schools. I remember all my teachers, and I never had one whom I did not like. I considered Mr. Everett Sloan, our public school principal, to be the most outstanding of all, most outstanding. He was able to create interest and enthusiasm, to motivate and encourage students, both gifted and disinterested. I felt he treated everyone equally, regardless of their intelligence or their social standing. There was no gym in the school. Games were played outside. Boys and girls played separately. Saturday morning, school hockey and softball were the big attractions. We spent hours playing a roughhouse game called Red Lion. It was Red Lion, but we never knew that. We got older, it was Red Line. Anyway, it went, you started with one poor soul, and you, in the middle, and he gathered, and then 2 tackled another one. Eventually, it was left to 1, which was usually Kevin Heffernan, and you would fight and twist and roll and gouge and so on, because you had to turn him over on his back. And so I'd go home that night, the buttons be torn off my shirt and this, that, and the other, and Mother would say, what on earth ever happened, Neil? Mom, we was just playing. There were no zippers then, so buttons were gone. High school was quite different. Much more individual effort in studies, much less spoon feeding. Good work habits and personal management of time were to be cultivated. Most of us were concerned about our image as we had started girling. We had a teacher, Joe Maloney. He was a real good guy. Il enseignait le français. He taught French. See, how many of you people, you forgot it all. Joe did a good job and you've forgotten it. Anyhow, one day I had been acting up and Joe decided that he should throw me out of class. He grabbed me by the shirt collar and the seat of the pants, and he had both hands occupied. And the classroom had a nice big old door with a beautiful pearl handle on it. So when he would ease me up, I'd turn the door and it would open. He'd ease me back. When he'd come back, I'd close the door and I'd slam into it. He did that about 3 times. And I got all the giggles that I'd wanted, which was my whole purpose in the thing. My head was a bit bruised. But, so he said, oh, go on, Neil, go back down, sit down. Your head was fine. And that was a good thing, because had the principal, who was a really good guy, Bob Sutton, but a stern taskmaster, he didn't take the giggles out of me. We had Army cadets. I was going through for a general, but it didn't work out. We had them for both boys and girls. We had uniforms, tunics, trousers, caps, And the girls had yellow sweaters and skirts. We had drill practice nearly every nice day in the spring, culminated with an inspection by a regular Army officer. And then we would parade down the main street in town. We were taught Morse code. And if we passed the test, the Department of Defense gave us a check for $10. You have no idea how much $10 meant then. That was like winning the lottery. And nearly everybody, I never knew anybody that failed, everybody got $10. It was really a big help around. Dick McCracken, Gord Coyle, and myself, we went to cadet camp at Camp Ipperwash on Lake Huron, which is just north of Sarnia. That's where the big confrontation where Dudley George was killed, in later years when it became a civilian place. We had great fun. We went roller skating in Grand Bend, and Dick was doing some twirls, and he wiped out and skinned his knee. And believe it or not, he was the only casualty in 4 years of cadets. Princess Elizabeth and Prince Philip toured Canada. I believe it was 1951 or 52. Anyway, King George had kicked the bucket, and they come over to see what, try to teach us how to walk on our hind legs, I guess. Anyway, we cadets went to Trenton on the train. And for many of us, it was the first time we ever had a train ride. So we go on the train, and we got on the train at the CNR station in Peterborough, and Lindsay contingent, their cadet corps, was already on there. Well, Lindsay, big town, big wheels, eh? Anyway, we fought and tussled with them all the way from Peterborough to Trenton. Then we got to Trenton, we called a truce, because we had, you know, quite an important trial ahead of us. We got out, we lined Highway 2 all the way between Trenton and Belleville. Well, not all the way, we weren't that big, but anyway, and Philip and Liz came sailing by about 70 miles an hour in an open Cadillac, and we did well. We endured it pretty well. There was never a threat to her safety. The only thing negative that happened is that a disoriented, frightened squirrel tried to call up my pant leg. Then back we got in the train. Both sides broke the truce. And we tussled and strapped all the way back up to Peterborough. We could have been in real trouble, because that wasn't conduct that was expected of gentlemen like us. But our principal, Bob Sutton, was a Lindsay boy. He came from Lindsay, and he was so delighted, and he wanted every blow by blow of how we tuned those lads from his hometown. Lakefield was truly a remarkable place to grow up, if I ever did. The returning war veterans were so kind and so considerate, so helpful to us. They were so supportive. Once, a few of our kids were hanging around the Coronation Inn, which was, there's about an insurance business in that place right now. No, Ball Real Estate is in pretty well where it was. Anyway, in came this veteran, we didn't even know him. And when he left, he gave Freddie Wanamaker, the proprietor, a $10 bill and said, let them eat it all up till it's gone. Well, that $10, now you might have got a hamburger or two. In those days, hot dogs were 10 cents, hamburgers were 15 cents, Sundays were 15 cents, a bottle of pop was 7 cents. 37 cents and you could gouge yourself. $10 was 30 of those gouges. We had a wonderful time. We ate until we were so stuffed, and then we sent out a few kids to reconnoiter and scout out some more friends to go back in and get in on it. But not until we were fed. There we are. Our veterans were so kind and helpful to us, all of them. But I specifically remember George Ponzi Chapel, Jack Mose, Cy Hopkins, who probably there's only one or two in the whole room here who remember Cy Hopkins, Tom Junkin, Bell Wood, Cliff Dunford, and most all of the Green Boys. Theodore, who is known as Red, Alan, Wes, Elmer, and Arnie, who is here with us this evening. Arnie, please accept my belated formal thanks for all the kindness and attention that you and your brothers gave to us kids in Lakefield when you come back from the war. It was certainly remembered and appreciated. I know there were other brothers, but they did not give us the attention and kindness of the ones as I mentioned. So there's no need to interrupt me. Also, they were not above giving us a cuff on the ear when it was warranted, as well as a pat in the back. Now, we didn't run home and tell Dad because, you want a real trouble, that's what you should have done. Mr. G. Winder Smith, the headmaster of the Grove School, was a wonderful man. He was so kind to us townies, and he would guide us and mentor us and chat with us, and that was really something. And every Saturday in January and February, if we weren't playing hockey in Lakefield, Kevin and Wink Heffernan, Don Henry, John Pugh, who's with us tonight, Don Matthews, Ken Wingate, Pete, and I think Ken's here too, Pete and Willie Spencer, and sometimes Fred Wilson, but he's usually trapping or something, and myself, we'd walk up to the Grove School and play hockey all day on the open air rink. At lunch hour, if he was there, like G. Winder Smith was a busy man. Sometimes he'd be there on Saturday, sometimes he wouldn't be there. He'd have to go and do business. If he was there, he would take us into the cafeteria for hot chocolate and toast, or sometimes a hot dog. That was, Kevin Efron would score 50 goals in a day like that if the weather was nice. Saturday night in Lakefield was a big night. There was always a mixed crowd of skaters at the old arena here, and everybody enjoyed themselves and had fun. I see Dorothy Nichols here tonight. She often skated on Saturday night. Yeah, and it was just a really good crowd and a fun time. We, like most of the kids around there, we had to scrounge for equipment. Like, we didn't have it, you could only hand it down so much and it worn out. My brother Dean, he got an old pair of straight skates. And they were the kinds of like goaltender skates, only they weren't. They were used for playing playing out in those days. And they had a metal brace down the back with a clamp on it that you could clamp down to stop your ankle from bending. Talk about relics. Dean had that. Was he ever proud of those skates? I'm telling you. Dean went clanking down the ice. He couldn't get the skates to turn. He smashed into the board. Bang. Ever after that, for years, and Dean got to be a very good hockey player. He played junior hockey in Peterborough and played senior hockey in Peterborough and played so on. But we, at home, all we had to do was say, clank, 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 bang! Even the days you should encounter my brother Dean, you just say, clank, 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 bang! And he'll know what you're talking about. I didn't have any skates, and was glad to get a pair of white girl skates handed down from my sister Elaine. It worked well until the moisture and the wear and tear of the game wore the white off. And then the other team started teasing me. And my brother Don, mostly known as Red, said that's where I got my bad nature and my fiery quick fused temper was from the beginning with those white skates. During World War II, it was always a very, very sad occasion when we would learn, and it would spread through the village like wildfire, when we would learn that a serviceman, a Lakefield boy, was missing in action or had been killed. We lived on Chippewa Avenue. The Webster family, Don, they lived on Chippewa Street behind us, a block behind us. We rented our house from a fellow by the name of Bullock, and I don't remember his first name proper, but he was always called Banty. Their son Mark was killed. Then, directly across the road, Jack Morrison, a boy who was raised there, he was killed. And then we got word that a relative of my mother's first cousin, Jim Crow, had been killed, and his body was washed up on the shore of the Mediterranean Ocean. 3 boys, so sad. It was so sad to us because we knew them. Now, there were an awful lot of boys from that street who were killed, and that was a common occurrence. Like, the percentage of boys, in most cases, there's 1 or 2 ladies from the village that enlisted, one of the Henry girls enlisted in the service, and so on, but it was mostly boys, and the ones that were killed were sad memories. And they were not only sad on the occurrence, it was very, very sad when everybody else's sons and brothers and sisters come home, and theirs never came home. It was a sad thing. I remember all 3 of those boys were in the RCAF. I remember the last time I saw Bernie Tucky McFadden. He was in his army uniform, standing on the steps of Sid Hutt's pool room. 6 weeks later, he was dead. I guess he was on what you'd call an embarkation leave or whatever, last leave, and he got shipped over, got put in the lines. 6 weeks later, he was dead. I was in grade 4 in class when our teacher, Lucille Moore, announced to us on Tuesday, May the 8th, 1945, that the war was over. She began to cry. Us kids in grade 4, 9 years of age, we were all so happy it was over. Why was she crying? But then she took the time to explain that she was crying for joy because she had a brother, Doug, who was in the army, and she too was so happy it was over that she cried. We were happy too, but we didn't cry. So young, so sad, such a loss. Now I cried. I got to tell you a little different story. I love relating to the World War II veterans and talking with them and gaining what they might tell me and so on. And one of the very best, a great friend of mine who I respected and admired so much. Okay, man, that's enough. Yeah, must be taken from his mother, the other side. Jack Mose, great guy. Wasn't particularly well educated, but he was wise. He was practical, he was friendly, he was humorous. And he never intended to be a mentor. He didn't want to be. He didn't know that he was imparting so much information and wisdom and ways of life to me. So he just kept going on. I used to seek his company and that of his good friend, who was also in the same regiment with him in the Canadian Army, the Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry Highlanders, the SD&G, and his friend Gordon Jakes Hill and him would get talking, and it was priceless to be able and privileged to listen to what they had to say. Mosey gave me a French franc note before that they had been presented on the evening before D-Day, before they invaded France. And they were to be used and kept and used in emergency. Of course, this is in many years later, and Jack would say, I guess we were to call a halt to the war, run in the nearest store, and buy a bottle of wine. But he said, I never did that. So I got and he gave me the franc note. He also would joke about the ridiculous supply by the Canadian Army of folding bicycles. He said, now when we come off the landing crafts on D-Day, he said, we were so loaded down and heavy with shells, equipment, this, that, the other, he said, and then they give us these folding bicycles. He said, most of them hit the English Channel and were thrown out long before we ever got to France. He said, could you just imagine? And Mosey had a good humor when you got him going. Could you just imagine me pedaling like hell down the road, headed for Caen? Shells, bombs, mortars bursting all around me. Me yelling at a German or a Canadian tank, get off the road, I'm coming through. And Mosey would laugh about that. Of course, I would laugh too, and encourage him for more, Mosey, more. Oh, Moses. I'm either going to have to talk faster or something. In summer holidays, before I began to work, we spent from about 10 a.m. in the morning to dusk all summer on the swim beach in Lakefield, which was on Water Street, just south of where the present-day Toth Marina is now. From 9 or 10 on, if I wanted to spend the money, I had to earn it. So I worked. At various times, I delivered the Peterborough Examiner. I remember I started delivering, it was 15 cents, went up to 18 cents. 5 or 6 of the customers canceled. You just have to collect every week. I'd come up around the door, I'd see them peeking out through the curtain. They didn't have the money. I didn't have the money either. So I could understand. Anyway, they always did pay eventually. I delivered the Globe and Mail. I delivered a weekly magazine, a Canadian magazine called Liberty. And if I recall correctly, it sold, if you can imagine, for 5 cents an issue. You can imagine how much the carrier made. Later, I delivered groceries for T.C. Young and Grace, who were on the corner of southwest corner of Reed and Queen, and then I delivered groceries for Warren Payne, the northwest corner of Burnham and Queen, and then I delivered meat and some groceries for Ralph and Bernice Beavis on the southwest corner of Queen. Then I quit school and went and worked in the hydro. Well, anyway, I didn't stay there. I should have, probably would have been a great choice for a career, but I didn't. I went back to school. When I went back to school, I relinquished all those other opportunities for work, so I worked at the A&P in Peterborough on Friday evenings and Saturdays for a wage for Mr. Harry Corner, who eventually moved to Lakefield and lived here. And I used to hitchhike back and forth, Fridays after school, then home, and then all day Saturday at home. Lakefield at that time was quite an isolated, self-centered, captivated village. Everyone knew each other. I had a lot of close friends, I think, but with time, and you'll find out this if you're young, friends go all their own ways. They're always friends, but they're never as close as they used to think they were. A close friend who knows all about you, but still likes you. One who you would willingly help without being asked, and who would treat you likewise. All my brothers and sisters are real good friends, lifetime friends, as are Keeman Heffernan, Gord Coyle, Dick and Jack McCracken, and Arnie Graham, who's sitting down there with us. Arnie's 10 years older than me, but he was very immature, and I helped him as much as I could. Oh, hi, Arnie. I didn't. How's your hearing aid? Good? I have many other friends, but I'm not so close to them. So you don't help with them. What I do with them is I pray for them. When they have troubles, I pray for them. Then all their troubles are in God's hands. And I feel good about it. I was very involved with sport, mainly ball and hockey as a player and then a coach. I was not a natural in skills in either sport. Fortunately, diligent practice and determination allowed me to master most skills and to excel in a few. Our family gained a lot of acceptance and recognition in life through our participation in sport. It opened a lot of doors. I was granted penalty box doors. I was granted an athletic hockey scholarship, athletic and hockey, to Clarkson University, Potsdam, New York. And I have been selected as a member of the Peterborough Sports Hall of Fame. I see someone sleeping down there in the back row. Can you hear me? I'm not going to dwell any further on sports. It was a phase, a wonderful phase, I enjoyed it very much. If you want, you can likely find out a lot of it in newspaper clippings and in research. And if you don't, that's fine. You won't find that there's much to be available anyhow. Now, I don't know. I think I'd like to tell you a couple stories of people. Usually just good humor of people. One time Dick McCracken and I, we went to the show in Peterborough. And we had a couple girls. And Dick is an uncle to that young lady sitting down there, Sandy. So we got up there and, oh, a really good movie. Wasn't nearly sexy enough to suit me, but anyway. So about halfway through, Dick and I decided that we should go down to the washroom and compare ourselves. And this is the first time Dick had ever been out with this girl, and she was a friend of the other girl. So we were going down to compare ourselves, and Dick was a real clown. Like, he probably only spoke about 3 or 4 sentences to her, but he goes down at the Odeon Theater at a huge, big door. It had to be 8 feet high, 3.5 feet wide, and 3 inches thick, and it must have weighed 250, 300 pounds. Dick got up and he said, and he turned and looked at me and he said, I'm going to marry that girl. And the door was so well balanced, he jerked it open and hit him on the head. Down he went. It come over the PA speaker. Man down at the entrance. Men's washroom. Anyway, finally they came along and they petted him and they had a wet cloth and so on. And so when Dick was coming to, I said, will the wedding be off, Dick? Anyway, just one of a few stories. One night, Stan McBride was a really fine Peterborough citizen, and they had a night to honor him at Club Aragon. And Bobby Kroll and me and a couple of my brothers, we got a table up of 8 people and paid for it too. And so we went to honor Stan. Well, it was a really nice evening. We had a wonderful chicken dinner. And then they started having entertainment, and they announced that Stan McBride liked opera. Well, that really was up my alley. I didn't know opera from Oprah. I didn't want to. So she got up there and she got going. And she started warbling. And Bobby Crow said to me, I think she's got a chicken bone stuck in her throat. Well, I don't know if you've ever had this totally uncontrollable laughter. And if you haven't, it's too damn bad. So he and I got laughing and laughing and laughing. And I look at him and laugh. Eventually, we got right down under the table. because, oh, it was embarrassing. Well, just over a silly little chicken bowl. Anyway, that was a wonderful time, too. I got to tell you another time. I never was much to drink, but geez, I tried. I should get, you know, some reward for effort. Anyhow, I meet Dick McCracken, and Dick was a really good guy, so I'm telling him, I'm bringing him all of these stories, and it's really not fair. Because, anyway, I met, he said, Neil, he said, come on up the beach, that's South Beach Hotel. It goes, come on up the beach for a beer. Oh, geez, Dick, I don't drink, I wouldn't know what to do. Well, just do what I do, Neil. And he said, they don't care about your age up there, they don't care, no matter, just go in whatever I do, you do. Well, okay, Dick, so up we go. We go in. There's only about Dick and I, and then 3 or 4 here, and in came Jack Young. And Jack Young owned a trucking company and a crushing company, and he was totally out of his element. In South Beach, he had a shirt and a tie on, and I knew Jack Young. There's no need to wear a shirt and a tie, Jack. But anyway, there we are, and waiter came around, and he said, and Jack was sitting over, I'd say about as far as my grandson-in-law over there sitting. Anyway, waiter come over. Oh, what do you boys have? Dick said, I'll have an OB, which means Old Vienna for some of you temperance people. And I said, yeah, I'll have the same. So they brought the Old Vienna, and it come up, in those years it come up, and then it had little bulbs at the top, and then so on. So Dick got it, he takes a swig. Well, I didn't mean to drink beer, I didn't know how to drink beer. I sucked on it like you would have thought, you know. Well, Jesus, it started to foam, and it started to foam. Dick said, put your thumb over it, now, put your thumb over it. So I put my thumb over it. So we waited for a while. Dick said, well, should be okay now, Neil. So I gently eased my thumb. If there'd been a movie producer there, I would be worth millions. There was a sheet of foam went over across that room, and I could just see it flying. There was just a big swath, and it slapped Jack Young right on the face and just put his shirt. Well, the entrepreneur, he's looking around. Dick and I put our heads down, and we started laughing and giggling, but we had to turn our face, but he left here, man. And he was established. We weren't established. So, anyway, what a remembrance. Yeah, I don't even know if he drank that brand. Anyhow, I don't know. Now I'm pretty well finished, and I know there's 7 or 8 of you saying, thank God. Anyway, I have some things on how Lakefield has changed. And it's pretty dry, but if I have another 10 minutes, I can get through it if you can handle it. What do you think, Don? Go for it. Can you dip this? You know, you people are all laughing. If there's anything I hate, it's a damn fool. Unless it's me. Anyhow, here we go. How has Lakefield changed? The following comments I'm making are not to condemn any individuals at all, not to condemn elected municipal bodies nor the administration of affairs. Much of our changes just evolved. They weren't organized, they weren't planned. Much of them just evolved. One true constant is change. Change is inevitable. Much of it just happens. And most of it is for the better. I'm mentioning a few that I have observed. One big thing that's happened in Lakefield is years ago, most all business owners lived in the village. They were involved in churches. They sang in the choirs. They were members of curling clubs. They were members of the Legion, members of the Lions Club. They served on council. They were on school boards, the fire department. They helped with the scout program. They played, assisted, or attended sporting events, as did their children who went to school here. They were a huge part of our culture and society. We pretty well lost all that. You go up and down the main street. Do you even know who owns that business? Do you know if they live in Lakefield? Do you know their name? Do you know their kids? And so on. No, that has all changed. Now, I'm not saying there aren't good reasons why it has, but it has, it's made quite an effect on our village. As a result, with me, and I'm not trying to influence you, but the slogan, buy local, rings just a touch hollow. At the same time, our dentists, our doctors, our teachers, our police force, our village workers, they lived in the village. They were an active, capable part of our fabric and our society. Where are they now? I don't know. Very few of them live here. We went from being, we became mobile. We went from maybe 1 or 2 cars to on a street. When the family got a new car, usually it wasn't a new car, that's an exaggeration, it was an old thing that they were able to purchase and buy, then they would take turns taking all the neighbors up and down the street for a ride. Kind of a sore bit of bones with me because we had 6, 7 children. We were the last to get invited every time. Anyhow, now with our affluence, everybody got 1, 2, and 3 cars. And even parking in their own grounds, their own home becomes a problem. Society has, as a result, become very mobile. Very active. I know a couple of people in Lakefield. They have season tickets to the Peach game. They never ever come near to each the Chiefs play in the arena up here, which is great hockey and good fun. They got wheels. They got money. They drive to Peterborough to see the Peach play. If they like hockey, then if they like good hockey, then why the hell would you watch the Peach? Anyway, just a little bit of things that are happening. So society has become so mobile that no longer considered within our village. On January the 1st, 2001, by order of the provincial ministry, Lakefield was forced to join with Smith and Ennismore to become part of one municipality. The wishes of our citizens were not solicited. We weren't even permitted to vote on it. We had an order that we would join. And believe you me, there were an awful lot in Ennismore and Smith that didn't want us. And they were ordered to take us. That was really democracy in action. Yeah, that was wonderful. We were not permitted to vote on the amalgamation, and which definitely was a transgression of our democratic right. Nor were Smith and Ennismore allowed to vote on the matter, whether they wanted to join. It was thrust upon all parties. Prior to, and even following amalgamation, only a small portion of Smith's population had any interaction through business or social activity in Lakefield. Ennismore had even less. Sources of doctors, dentists, lawyers, high schools, retail outlets, entertainment were not available locally in Ennismore and Smith went to Peterborough. They didn't come to Lakefield. So we really had nothing in common. We were forced to join with them, but we had very, very little in common. Duro Dummer would have been a much more logical, sensible fit. Those people banked in Lakefield, those people saw doctors in Lakefield. Damn buggers, they dated girls in Lakefield too. Anyway, you get my meaning. The council didn't orchestrate this. They couldn't do anything about it. The council has no malice towards Lakefield, but we, township of Selwyn now, Smith, Ennismore, Lakefield, Selwyn, has 17,000 approximately population. Smith has 9,000, Ennismore has 5,000, Lakefield has almost 3,000, 17,000. We are numbered by the makeup of council, and council is composed primarily, the representation is based on population, so we're outnumbered in the number of people that we have on council. And that is democracy, whether we like it or not. So council is forced to recognize that we're only a little bit more than 15% of population, and a similar percentage of the township's income, overall income, in taxes that are paid. However, the elephant in the room is that we have lost control. Unlike before, we the citizens of Lakefield no longer have absolute total control and management as we had before. We do not have autonomy over our fire department, our police service, our parks, our arena, our memorial hall, and our infrastructure, such as sewers, water, and streets. We don't control it. It's the council, which has more members not in Lakefield than have in Lakefield, who control and tell us what we will do. Yes, there have been changes, and there will continue to be changes. But, lo and behold, enjoy life. The sun still shines. Gail and I are happy. We truly do have a wonderful life with each other. Life has been and continues to be enjoyable. We have traveled a lot. Cruises, England and Ireland and Europe, a total of 3 times, all over Canada and the U.S. We spend a lot of each winter in Florida. I'd like to tell you just one little story about Florida. In Florida, with the rising American dollar and the shrinking Canadian dollar, you better be sharp. You better be on your toes with your spending. We look for sales. We take advantage of the specials, the happy hours, and the early bird dinners. 3 old lads were walking down the street in Tampa, and they saw a sign in this window. Drinks, 10 cents each. They said, oh, that's quite a joke. That's not true. Let's go and just see if this is right or not. So in they go. Let's give it a try. They ordered 3 margaritas. The bill came, 30 cents and no tip. They said, oh, this is great. Let's have another one. So they had another one. They were thinking maybe having several more. And they looked down, and the bartender come over, and they said, how can you do this? How can you sell drinks for 10 cents each? Well, he said, I tell you. He said, I won $143 million in a lottery. I really like people. I like meeting new people. I like talking to people. So I just decided that until at least half of that's gone, I'd open up a bar and sell drinks for 10 cents each. Oh, they said, you're a fine man. We'll be back. We'll see more of you. And one of the lads looked down and he said, I see 4 or 5 guys down there, he said. They aren't drinking. He said, are they religious or are they temperance? He said, oh no, they're Canadians. They're waiting for happy hour. In closing, whoopee! I would like to say thank you to my audience, and most especially, thank you, Lakefield. We couldn't have done it without you. Thanks. Thank you, Don.
good. This is the largest gathering I've seen here, and it feels really nice. I wish you'd all come out to the next meeting too.
When is it?
It's the last Thursday in May. It's also the meeting that we change the board and that if possible. So don't let that scare you though. Anyway, Neil, could you please stand up here? I have a small token of gratitude for you coming out and speaking. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Don. There was no need for anything. It was an honor to be here. Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, by the way, come back and do the rest.
Pardon?
Come back and do the rest. I know.
In the NHL. So I skipped it.
And just in case you're wondering, he was given an open time, no time limit. It was he that stopped it. Okay, I mentioned the May meeting, and that's a very important meeting. I'd like, actually, if some of you here don't have a membership, that would be nice too. It's $15 a year. And there's a suggestion box back there on the table if anybody feels worth a few bucks, maybe you could help us out there. Anyway, I'd like to thank the people that put the food and coffee and that back there. Please get up and enjoy it and mingle, and maybe you can get Neil's ear for a couple things, I hope too. And thank you again for coming.